Good morning and welcome to our Sunday morning service. Whether you are joining us in person or online, we are delighted you're here and we hope you'll come again. There are many ways to become an active participant in our vibrant faith community. As always, Membership and Engagement Committee members and I are here to help you connect with our congregation in ways that feed your spirit and bring you joy. If you would like to set up a time to explore engagement possibilities and/or learn more about becoming a member, please contact me, Tina Lewis at tlewis@unitytemple.org. I am happy to meet with you in person or on Zoom or by phone. You may also fill out a visitor form on the website at www.unitytemple.org or stop by the welcome table in the foyer after service to talk with a volunteer and fill a form out there. We look forward to getting to know you, and we hope you enjoy the service.
Good morning. My name is Ed McDevitt. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I serve on your Board of Trustees. It's my pleasure to welcome you here this morning. While masks are no longer required, we still do recommend them as a way to protect each other. If you're here for the first time, thank you for joining us. We look forward to getting to know you. We invite everyone present in the sanctuary today to join in our in-person community time immediately following the service. Each week we remind ourselves of our congregation's core values: connection, transformation, justice, and acceptance. Our mission is to embody these core values in our daily lives by welcoming all, inspiring compassion, nurturing wonder, and serving community. Unitarian Universalists also uphold 7 principles. Today I would like to remind us of principle number 3. As a Unitarian Universalist congregation, we affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. We're so glad you're here with us today. We hope you find the service inspiring and meaningful. I invite you now to take a moment to greet one another both online and in the sanctuary. Good morning, Scott. Good morning. Good to see you. Hi, Peter. After about another minute or so, 2 minutes, we bang the gong to tell people to sit down. I'll do it.
We should get gongs next time. Good morning. My name is Liz Shareskin. My pronouns are she, hers, and I have been a member at Unity Temple since fall of 2020. And yes, it was the struggles many of us experienced in that now infamous year that led me to finding UU and Unity Temple. For me, the turning point was the murder of George Floyd and the flood of questions that came after. Questions both about our country and world, as well as questions I was asking myself about how I was living my values and how I was tending to my spiritual life. The culmination of all that was going on that year left me disconnected, spiritually empty, and helpless to find ways to meaningfully make a positive impact on our society and on our planet. I joined committees and started to meet people, at the time, all virtually, and I began to find alignment in all sorts of ways at Unity Temple. In the 2 years since, I have been grateful for all of the spaces where I have been welcomed and been able to grow. Earlier this year, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, I felt a similar despair as I did in 2020. But this time, it was different. Immediately, I knew I could turn to Reverend Colleen and the folks in our Faith in Action Committee to find ways to get involved and channel my anger into something positive. I found equanimity and spiritual sustenance from the Mindful Reflections community, and I was able to share with my Soul Connections group how the decision impacted my life in more personal ways. And I will never forget the service that Reverend Emily gave that Sunday, which wasn't supposed to be about the decision, but that still spoke to our faith as one that calls us to act and stand up for our values. It is for all of these reasons and more that I am proud to support Unity Temple each year during the annual fund drive. I hope that you also find connection during the annual fund drive. I hope that you also find connection, spiritual fulfillment, and ways to live out your values here, and that it inspires you to make a generous pledge for this year's drive. And please send in your pledge as soon as you can to help the committee volunteers save time on reminders. Consider making your pledge today. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Reverend Scott Ossing. I am Unity Temple's community minister serving our statewide UU Justice Network, the UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, and it's good to be with you back again today on this glorious fall morning. Our child slaughter today is Henry Metzger. Henry is 7 years old. He likes drawing, Legos, and soccer. Please join me with the child sliding in the bulletin. We are Unitarian Universalists. This is the church of the open minds, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. We take care of planet Earth and each other. Our opening words are actually a chalice lighting for a democracy that should, by Adrienne Ballou. We light this chalice for the democracy that should and could still be. We light this chalice for the creativity, brilliance, energy, organizing, and hope that has been spent on ensuring the right to vote for all. We light this chalice because it is a human right for everyone to have a say in the way they are governed. We light this chalice for everyone feeling pain, loss, anger, and more in the face of deep and violent injustice. We light this chalice for everyone who is directly impacted when voting rights are taken away. We light this chalice for you, if that is you, for us, if that is us. We light this chalice for those who do not have hope right now. May we hold the thread of hope together in our community, with space to leave slack when we are struggling, and to pick up the thread when, in community, we have held each other up and replenished our stores. We light this chalice for all, past and future, who continue to dream and build towards a world where everyone is treated with the inherent worth and dignity they have. We light this chalice to keep on working towards the world we know could be. Our opening hymn is number 348 in the gray hymnal, Guide My Feet. Please rise as you are able in body or spirit.
For verses,
Please join in our congregation's covenant. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God.
Holding each other is the time in the service where we pause to share and reflect on the moments of our lives that have moved our spirits throughout this week. As a community whose mission commits us to inspiring compassion in our lives and in our congregation, sharing the joys and sorrows of our lives with one another is a way to build the relational network and to live our mission at Unity Temple. To share our joy or a sorrow in your life with us, please email pastoralassociates@unitytemple.org by 8 p.m. on Friday. If you're with us in person, you may also light a candle at the chalice table as a symbol of your joy or sorrow. If you're online, we invite you to share it in the chat box. We have one joy shared this week. Noel and Kate Widener were thrilled to announce the healthy arrival of their daughter, Guinevere Jane, on October 5th. Baby Wendy is the tiniest new member of the Unity Temple congregation, and big brother Gus and his big sister Jojo will be proud and excited to introduce her to everyone at coffee hour this fall. Let us hold the spoken and unspoken joys and sorrows present in our congregation, in our community, and in our world, in our hearts as we enter together into a moment of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, Spirit of love. Today is another day to be thankful for the blessings in our lives, for the crisp clarity and beauty of the fall weather, for the joy of new life among us, for the connection and support of community. It's also another day to support one another in our struggles and sorrows, in the ongoing pain of injustice, both personal and systemic, in the burdens we carry, be they physical, psychological, spiritual, economic, in the losses we grieve. May this always be a community where we can bring our highest and deepest selves and find ourselves accepted, supported, nurtured, loved. May this be a time of connection, of sharing, of healing, of openness to transformation. And may we always go out from this time and this place with just a little more strength, a little more courage, a little more compassion to participate in the healing and transformation of our communities and the world of which we are part. Blessed be. Amen and Ashe.
Good morning. If you would like to join me down here for Story for All Ages, please come. Good morning, everyone. How are you this morning? Good. All right, my name is Ms. Emily, and I'm here for Ms. Val today, okay? Okay. We're going to read Equality's Call, the story of voting rights in America, written by Deborah Deason, illustrated by Magdalena Mora. Our founders declared when our country began that consent of the governed was part of the plan. Through voting elections and representation, the voice of the people would strengthen our nation. In fact, though, for years, this great founding ideal was extended to some and for others not real. But we heard in the distance equality's call. A right isn't right till it's granted to all. The states set the rules about who got to vote, and your gender, your race, and your wealth were of note. See who could vote and could not vote. White men with property went to the polls, but the rest of the people were left off the rolls. The dream of democracy wasn't yet true. There were changes to make. There was work still to do. But we heard growing clearer equality's call. A right isn't right till it's granted to all. The rules about wealth were the first thing to go. As more were enfranchised, their voices could grow. And a small group of voices was raising the fact that enslavement was wrong, an unspeakable act. Good people stood up for the truth that they knew. Abolition and suffrage were long overdue. We heard ever louder equality's call. A right isn't right till it's granted to all. There was war in our nation, and slavery ended. Amendments were added, the franchise extended. Now more men could vote, at least so the law said, yet denial through taxes and tests was widespread, and the voices of women were mostly omitted. In only some states was their voting permitted. But nothing could muffle equality's call. A right isn't right till it's granted to all. Suffragists didn't give up on the fight, and the 19th Amendment gave women the right. But voters of color still met with oppression. Their voting was hindered by brutal suppression. So we passed legislation to make voting fair, to extend and protect voters' rights everywhere. We heard it, we felt it, equality's call. A right isn't right till it's granted to all. The journey's not over, the work hasn't ended. Democracy's dream must be constantly tended. But where we are now is a debt that we owe to the work of more people than ever will know. And each time we vote, we acknowledge that past. We honor our rights to ensure they will last. For to vote is to answer equality's call. And each time we vote with them all. The end. All right, follow me.
Our reading is by Wendell Berry. It's called A Poem on Hope. It's a little bit long, so I invite you to take a breath and just take it in. It is hard to have hope. It is harder as you grow old, for hope must not depend on feeling good, and there is the dream of loneliness at absolute midnight. You have also withdrawn belief in the present reality of the future, which surely will surprise us. And hope is harder when it cannot come by prediction any more than by wishing. But stop dithering. The young ask the old to hope. What will you tell them? Tell them at least what you say to yourself. Because we have not made our lives to fit our places, the forests are ruined, the fields eroded, the streams polluted, the mountains overturned. Hope, then, to belong to your place by your own knowledge of what it is that no other place is, and by your caring for it as you care for no other place. This place that you belong to, though it is not yours, for it was from the beginning and will be to the end. Belong to your place by knowledge of the others who are your neighbors in it, the old man, sick and poor, who comes like a heron to fish in the creek, and the fish in the creek, and the heron who manlike fishes for the fish in the creek, and the birds who sing in the trees in the silence of the fisherman and the heron, and the trees that keep the land they stand upon, as we too must keep it or die. This knowledge cannot be taken from you by power or by wealth. It will stop your ears to the powerful when they ask for your faith, and to the wealthy when they ask for your land and your work. Answer with knowledge of the others who are here and how to be here with them. By this knowledge, make the sense you need to make. By it, stand in the dignity of good sense, whatever may follow. Speak to your fellow humans as your place has taught you to speak, as it has spoken to you. Speak its dialect as your old compatriots spoke it before they heard a radio. Speak publicly what cannot be taught or learned in public. Listen privately, silently, to the voices that rise up from the pages of the books and from your own heart. Be still and listen to the voices that belong to the stream banks and the trees and the open fields. There are songs and sayings that belong to this place, by which it speaks for itself and no other. Found your hope, then, on the ground under your feet. Your hope of heaven, let it rest on the ground underfoot. Be it lighted by the light that falls freely upon it after the darkness of the nights and the darkness of our ignorance and madness. Let it be lighted also by the light that is within you, which is the light of imagination. By it, you see the likeness of people in other places to yourself in your place. It lights invariably the need for care toward other people, other creatures in other places, and as you would ask them for care toward your place and you. No place, at last, is better than the world. The world is no better than its places. Its places, at last, are no better than their people, while their people continue in them. When the people make dark the light within them, the world darkens.
Bright morning stars are rising, bright morning stars are rising, bright morning stars are rising. Days are breaking in my soul.
While I was walking in the cool fall weather the other day, I caught a whiff of fresh air, some hint of warm wind with just a touch of humidity. It was the kind of fresh breeze that I usually associate with spring and life and the beginning of things. The sunlight, too, caught my eye, the bright sunlight falling at an angle that comes only twice a year around the equinox. And I found myself wondering just for a moment, is it fall or is it spring? The calendar, of course, says it's fall. Summer, which I love, is over, and we're moving into the shorter and cooler days of fall, which means the darkness and cold of winter, which I don't love quite so much, are not far behind. At least that's where my mind goes this time of year. To extend this into the realm of metaphor, it certainly seems like we're in a season of fall and decline in our world these days. It's hard not to look at the state of our democracy and not see it in danger of crumbling before our very eyes. It's hard not to look at the state of our climate and not see it teetering on the brink of collapse. It's hard not to look at the state of race relations in our country or basic matters of human dignity and not see us stuck in an interminable winter of white supremacy and resentment, of patriarchy and intolerance. And let's not even get started on the pandemic, shall we? It feels like a season of decline, and it's hard to see things getting better anytime soon. Oh, there are glimmers of what passes for hope these days in the grudging steps being taken to do something about climate change and to forestall some of the most blatant forms of election stealing. There are heroic stopgap efforts to take care of migrants seeking asylum, women seeking reproductive care, victims of climate-related disasters. But it's hard to say we're moving in a good direction. It's hard not to feel like things may yet get worse, isn't it? At least to me it does. To me it feels like we're in a season of decline, that it is fall, perhaps heading into winter. It is hard to have hope, Wendell Berry says. It is harder as you grow old. Does that ring true for anyone else here? For hope must not depend on feeling good, he continues, and that's probably a good thing, since it seems hard to feel hopeful these days. It's easy to go down the rabbit hole of how things are feeling at any given moment, as if the true state of the world was really reflected in how we're personally feeling about it. Our feelings generally say a whole lot more about us than they do about reality. And we do need to attend to our feelings because they are part of who we are. And to relate honestly to the world and to people around us, we need to bring our whole selves, feelings and all. But we shouldn't pretend that our feelings are an accurate reflection of the state of the world. They're simply a reflection of how we are experiencing life at the given moment. But how do we attend to our feelings, especially feelings of hopelessness, of weariness, of futility, and not just give in to them? Perhaps it's by recognizing them for what they are, an important part of how we are experiencing life, but not the whole story. Hope must be based on more than our feelings if it's going to be more than mere optimism that withers and fades when the going gets tough. There's a poem by Carol Prejean Zippert which struck me this week. Tell me what you do when you get lost. Tell me. Tell me what you feel, how things look to you, what happens in your head, what you say to yourself. Tell me. Can you see anything when you get lost? Can you hear what's about you? You perceive life at all. Tell me. Tell me what scares you most when you get lost. Can you draw from deep inside what you use to hold you up? Do you move differently? Tell me. Tell me what you do to reach that special calm. Can you direct a prayer? When do you know to wait? When do you know to risk? Tell me. Tell me what you do when you get lost. Tell me. Then, tell me how you know when you know you're not lost no more. Tell me. Wendell Berry continues his poem. The young ask the old to hope. What will you tell them? Tell them at least what you say to yourself. Because we have not made our lives to fit our places, The forests are ruined, the fields eroded, the streams polluted, the mountains overturned. Hope begins by getting real about what's happening, by being honest about what is. For hope that's not grounded in reality is nothing but an illusion, mere wishing. But it's not just that things are the way they are, it's that we care about them. If we didn't care, it wouldn't matter to us, and it wouldn't matter whether we had hope or not. But we do care. It bothers us what's happening. We care for our children, for our grandchildren, for our family, for our friends, for our fellow creatures, for the earth itself. We do care. And because we care, there may be reason to hope. Our connection to our world, our caring for our world can be a place to start to find hope. As Barry puts it, hope then to belong to your place by your own knowledge of what it is that no other place is, and by your caring for it as you care for no other place. We care for our world because it is our place, because we belong to it, and that caring can be a source of hope. Barry talks also about belonging to our place by knowledge of those who are our neighbors. And if we listen to our neighbors, they will tell us what they need, how to be here with them, as he says. Knowing each other as neighbors can open our eyes to what's happening in the lives around us, among our fellow citizens of this place, of this community, of this planet. Be they old or sick or young or poor, be they migrants seeking a better life or settlers seeking stability, be they differently abled or differently gendered or differently racialized, or sharing the same aspirations as ourselves, or all of the above. Knowing each other as neighbors can open our eyes to the fact that we all belong to the same place, for there really is no other place. We all belong to the same place. Ultimately, we belong to each other. And this knowledge, once we truly know it, cannot be taken to us by those who would separate and divide and pit us against each other. Knowing each other as neighbors of a common place can open ourselves to our common humanity and stop our ears to the powerful when they ask us to believe in them rather than ourselves and each other. It can stop our ears to the wealthy when they ask us for our land and our labor and pretend that they belong to whoever has the money to buy them. We belong to each other and to our common world, and that belonging can be a source of hope for a better world, a better place, a better future. Now, we could just hope for things to stay as they are, or maybe as they were. For me, that would be for summer to last forever, with the old man fishing in the creek like a heron, and the heron fishing in the creek like the man, and the birds singing in the trees that keep the land they stand upon, and so forth. But as much as I love those idyllic scenes of summer, I know that wishing for them to last forever is an illusion, at least here in the Midwest. For change is the very nature of reality. Hope, then, is not just about what is or what has been. Hope is about what could be, grounded in our yearning for what's possible, in our unease, our holy sense of discontent with the way things are. That yearning, that discontent can also be a source of hope because it makes us want to make things better. Perhaps hope is the conviction that life can be better than it is. Perhaps it's also the conviction that life is better than we make it. Hope is grounded in our caring for the world. It's rooted in our belonging to each other and to our places. And hope grows in our yearning for a better world, in our visions of the world as it could be. Barry puts it this way: found your hope then in the ground under your feet, your hope of heaven, let it rest on the ground underfoot. Let it be lighted also by the light that is within you, which is the light of imagination. By it, you see the likeness of people in other places to yourself in your place. It lights invariably the need for care towards other people, other creatures in other places, as you would ask them for care toward you in your place. Hope is ultimately an act of imagination. Imagining that which we do not see but know is true, that we are like each other, that we belong to each other. Imagining that which we do not yet see but yearn for, a world where we care for each other as if we're all in this together. This kind of hope is grounded not in the way we feel about how things are going, but in the way we care about the world, the way we belong to it, and the way we imagine and yearn for possibilities in that world. Caring and belonging are the roots of hope. Yearning and imagining are the branches. And I'm becoming persuaded that hope is what we need today more than ever, as much as we need action. I'm usually the kind of person who likes to focus on action. It's always been less important to me what we think about something than what we do about it. I was in a conversation just last week with someone who wanted to talk about the theology of social justice, and I found myself getting impatient because at the end of the day, what matters to me is what are we going to do about it. But there does come a point where action can take you only so far. If it's grounded in nothing deeper than, well, what should we do? And if it's guided by nothing more than, well, what can be done? Especially these days, when successes can seem few and far between, prospects for progress can seem bleak. Action without hope can lead to cynicism and emptiness. It's also just really hard to sustain action without hope. It's really hard to keep going when nothing is telling you it's going to get any better. Yes, we know the stakes are high, but sometimes acting out of a sense of urgency just isn't enough. I believe we need a sense of hope that what we do might actually matter. That's a big reason why the organization I lead, the UU Advocacy Network of Illinois, focuses primarily on actions that are grounded in our values, things that really matter to us, and that fit into a larger vision of the world as it could be. I think we also need a sense of connection to keep going, a sense that we're not in this all by ourselves, which is why we're always working to bring UUs together in our organization, with each other and with community partners, so that we are acting from a place of we're all in this together in this place. To keep going and sustain ourselves over the long haul, even when it seems like we're not getting anywhere, I believe we need to tune in to these deeper sources of hope, our caring for the people and places we love, our connection with each other as people who belong to each other, our vision and yearning for what life on earth could be. Action without hope is not enough, but of course, hope without action isn't enough either. Hoping for something doesn't make it so, and by itself, hope doesn't necessarily lead to action. What is required for action is that holy sense of discontent with the way things are, born of that tension between our knowledge of the way things are and a yearning for the way things could be. There are, of course, many ways of taking action. Many of you, probably most of you, have been doing things in your workplace, in your community, your whole lives to make the world a better place. Unity Temple has a long track record now of taking action in many ways on many issues. I know there are lots of people writing postcards and sending them to disenfranchised voters as part of UU the Vote and our statewide Vote Love campaign. We'll be gathering at noon at 1019 South Boulevard and at 12:30 on Zoom for one more round of action, because it really matters what happens this election. There are really important things happening, issues of democracy and the right to self-determination, issues of worth and dignity in how people are treated, issues of equity and equitable relationships between workers and employers, issues of interdependence and the future of our planet. It does matter what we do. It matters that we vote and encourage our neighbors and our friends and our families to vote. And it's also important to act beyond the elections. You and I will be bringing people to Springfield on November 16th for an advocacy day for pretrial fairness and the end of pretrial detention based on ability to pay. Longer term, we're building advocacy teams and congregations around the state, teams that build relationships with legislators and are ready to meet with them whenever called upon by our statewide coalition partners. We're hoping to launch that here at Unity Temple next year. And we're exploring the possibility of a rapid response network to respond to needs as they arise, from supporting asylum seekers to countering anti-LGBTQ attacks, to supporting women seeking reproductive care. I'd be happy to talk with any of you after the service about any of these. For myself, I know that part of what I need to do these days is just get up off my butt and get into action, do the things I know I can do. But another part of what I need is a sense of hope. to keep me going even when I'm tired or not feeling like doing much or not seeing much progress. I need something deeper and greater, grounding in me in what I care about, connecting me to others, drawing me towards that vision of the world as it could be. I need hope. None of this is to say that it isn't still hard to have hope. Alice Walker writes, I have learned to accept the fact that we face disappointment, disillusionment, even despair every time we act, every time we decide to believe the world can be better, every time we decide to trust others to be as noble as we think they are, and that there might be years during which our grief is equal to or even greater than our hope. The alternative, however, not to act, and therefore miss experiencing other people at their best, reaching toward their fullness, that has never appealed to me. It may feel like fall. It may feel like things are falling apart around us. But fall isn't always so different than spring. Breaths of fresh air can come at any time from any direction, and we can find and imagine and even create possibilities, even in the coldest and darkest of times. Hope, like anything creative, is ultimately an act of imagination. And hope, like action, is a choice we can always make. Blessed be. Each week, Unity Temple gives the Sunday offering to an organization that aligns with our Unitarian Universalist values. This week, our offering goes to the organization I co-lead with the Reverend Karen Mooney, the Unitarian Universalist Advocacy Network of Illinois, or UUNI. As many of you know, UUNI grew out of my work here at Unity Temple about 10 years ago, and is very much aligned with Unity Temple's Faith in Action network in being spiritually grounded, deeply relational, strategically effective. We train and develop spiritually grounded congregational leaders at Unity Temple and elsewhere. We connect UUs with each other and with organizations representing those marginalized in society, and we mobilize for action, following the lead of those partners. We're grateful for the support Unity Temple has provided over the years, and I'm here asking for your support yet again, when this work is needed more than ever. You may donate by placing cash or checks in the collection baskets that are being passed. If you're sitting in the back row, please find the basket under your pew, and pass them to someone who will be at the back of the main floor to collect them. You can also give by sending a check to Unity Temple with UUANI on the memo line, or by following the instructions on your screen. May what you give bring you joy.
There is more love somewhere. It's number 95 in the gray hymnal, and we'll sing all 4 verses. Please stand as you're willing and able. Thank you. Here we go. There is more love.
be seated for the closing words. From Tony Kushner in the book, The Impossible Will Take a Little While. I do not believe the wicked will always win. I believe our despair is a lie we are telling ourselves. In many other periods of history, people, ordinary citizens, routinely set aside hours, days, time in their lives for doing the work of politics, some of which is glam and revolutionary, and some of which is dull and electoral and tedious and not especially pure. And the world changed because they did. That's what we're doing now. It requires setting aside the time to do it and then doing it. Not any single one of us has to or possibly can save the world, but together in some sort of concert, in even not especially coordinated concert, with all of us working where we see work to be done, the world will change. Because this is a moment in history that needs us to organize our disparate energies into effective group action, and I choose to believe we will do what is required. Act, organize, assemble, oppose, resist. Find a place, a cause, a group, a friend, and start today, now, now, now. Continue, continue, continue. Being active is for the citizens of democracy, maybe the best way of speaking to God and hearing her answer. You exist. Mazel tov. Now get busy. Maintain the world by changing the world. Please join me for the chalice extinguishing words, which are in the order of service. Carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again.